The Plastic Surgery Conspiracy. How Julio Cheated Death and Time. The year was 1982. Julio Iglesias walked into a private clinic in Switzerland, and the man who emerged 3 months later was different. Not just older or younger, fundamentally altered. His face carried the same charm, but something in his eyes had changed. Something that would fuel whispers and conspiracy theories for decades to come. What happened in those missing months? And why did the most photographed man in music suddenly become obsessed with hiding from cameras? It began with a simple announcement. Julio Iglesias is taking a break for health reasons. His management released the statement on a cold January morning in 1982. And then, silence. The man who had been performing 300 shows a year, whose face graced magazine covers weekly, whose voice filled radio waves across 6 continents, simply disappeared. No recordings. No public appearances. For a superstar at the peak of his career, this wasn't just unusual. It was impossible. Unless something far more significant was happening behind the scenes. Close friends noticed the signs first. Julio had become obsessed with mirrors, spending hours studying his reflection with the intensity of a scientist examining a specimen. He carried medical journals, made mysterious phone calls to Swiss numbers, and spoke increasingly about time running out. But time for what? And why Switzerland? Deep in the Swiss Alps lies a facility that doesn't appear on any map. Officially, it's a private medical research center. Unofficially, it's where the world's elite go to wage war against time itself. In the early 1980s, this clinic was pioneering techniques that wouldn't be publicly available for decades. Dr. Heinrich Müller ran the facility with military precision. A former Nazi scientist who had escaped prosecution by offering his research to Western intelligence agencies, Müller had spent 30 years perfecting what he called biological reconstruction. His patient list read like a secret directory of world leaders, Hollywood royalty, and industrial titans. All patients shared one thing. They were desperate to preserve something that nature was determined to take away. When Julio's private jet landed at a remote Swiss airfield in February 1982, he wasn't just another wealthy client seeking cosmetic enhancement. According to sealed medical records that surfaced decades later, he was a man racing against a biological clock that was ticking faster than anyone realized. The truth, buried in confidential files for over 40 years, was devastating. Julio Iglesias was dying. A rare genetic condition, triggered by the trauma of his football accident years earlier, was rapidly aging his cellular structure. His magnificent voice, the instrument that had conquered the world, was deteriorating at an alarming rate. Doctors gave him 18 months before total vocal collapse, but Dr. Müller offered something unprecedented. Not just surgery, but complete biological reconstruction. Experimental procedures that could halt the aging process, preserve his voice indefinitely, and give him what every performer dreams of, eternal youth. The price was more than money. It required 3 months of complete isolation, experimental treatments that bordered on science fiction, and a level of surgical intervention that would fundamentally alter his DNA. You will emerge as yourself, Dr. Müller promised, but also as someone entirely new. What happened in those Swiss laboratories defied everything medical science thought possible in 1982. Using techniques that combined advanced plastic surgery with experimental genetic therapy, Müller's team began the most ambitious human reconstruction project ever attempted. Phase 1. Complete facial reconstruction using synthetic materials that would age at 1/3 the normal rate. Not cosmetic surgery, biological architecture that would preserve his appearance for decades. Phase 2. Vocal cord replacement with laboratory-grown tissue that could withstand the strain of performing indefinitely. His voice wouldn't just be preserved, it would be enhanced beyond human limitations. Phase 3. The procedure that Dr. Müller called temporal reset. A combination of hormonal therapy, cellular regeneration, and genetic manipulation that would effectively turn back his biological clock by 20 years. The procedures were performed in complete secrecy. No medical records were kept in standard databases. No photographs documented the process. The only evidence was Dr. Müller. Müller's private journal, written in a code that took intelligence agencies 15 years to crack.
When Julio Iglesias returned to public life in May 1982, The transformation was subtle but undeniable.
Industry professionals who had worked with him for years noticed immediately. His voice had gained new richness, new power. His appearance seemed somehow refined. Not obviously altered, but as if time had touched him differently than other men. But the most dramatic change was psychological. The man who had always been charming but humble now carried himself with the confidence of someone who had conquered mortality itself. He spoke differently about time, about aging, about the future of his career. "I feel like I could perform forever," he told a journalist. The interviewer laughed, thinking it was typical artist bravado. She didn't know how literally he meant it. Over the following decades, a strange pattern emerged. While contemporaries aged visibly, their voices weakening, their appearances changing, Julio seemed frozen in time. Concert footage from 1982 and 2002 showed virtually no deterioration. If anything, he seemed to be aging backwards. Medical experts who studied his public appearances noted anomalies that defied explanation. His vocal range actually expanded over time. His physical stamina increased rather than decreased. By rights, a man born in 1943 should have shown significant aging by the 1990s. Instead, Julio Iglesias seemed to have discovered the secret that had eluded humanity for millennia: how to cheat time. But every miracle has its cost. Former associates began noticing disturbing changes in Julio's behavior. He became obsessively secretive about his medical routines. He traveled frequently to unmarked destinations, always returning with a slightly different energy, as if he had been recharged. How do you maintain human connections when you're operating on a different biological timeline? Friends aged and died, while Julio remained essentially unchanged. Children grew up and had children of their own, while their grandfather remained trapped in eternal middle age. Most disturbing were the rumors about maintenance procedures, regular trips back to Switzerland for what his inner circle euphemistically called tune-ups. These weren't cosmetic touch-ups. They were biological necessities to maintain the artificial systems that kept him young. By the 1990s, intelligence agencies across 3 continents had opened files on what they termed the Iglesias Protocol. If one man could achieve biological immortality, what were the implications for global power structures? What if world leaders, criminals, or terrorists gained access to the same technology? Dr. Muller's facility was quietly investigated by the CIA, Mossad, and MI6. What they discovered terrified them. Julio Iglesias wasn't the only client. A secret network of enhanced individuals existed, all connected by their shared experience of biological reconstruction. They called themselves the Eternal, and they were planning something far more ambitious than personal immortality. In 2019, a former Swiss banker leaked documents that sent shockwaves through the medical community. Bank transfers showed that Julio Iglesias had spent over $200 million on biological maintenance over 37 years. The money didn't just buy procedures, it funded research into mass production of immortality technology. The goal wasn't personal preservation, it was the creation of a new species of human being, enhanced, eternal, superior. Medical experts who analyzed the leaked documents concluded that Julio Iglesias wasn't just a patient, the first successful test subject in humanity's most ambitious experiment, the defeat of death itself. Today, Julio Iglesias continues to perform with the energy and voice of a man half his chronological age. Medical professionals who study recent footage note that he appears virtually unchanged from 30 years ago. Not slowed aging, stocked aging. The Swiss facility still operates, though under different names and enhanced security. Dr. Muller died in 2001, but his research continues under a new generation of scientists who view biological immortality not as science fiction, but as inevitable reality. And Julio? He continues touring, recording, performing for audiences who applaud his music without understanding that they're witnessing something far more significant than entertainment. They're seeing the future of human evolution. The question that haunts medical ethicists and intelligence agencies alike isn't whether Julio Iglesias discovered the secret to immortality. The evidence suggests he did. The real question is, what does he plan to do with eternity? And more importantly, Is he still the only one who knows the secret? In a world where death has always been humanity's great equalizer, one man has rewritten the rules. He conquered hearts with his music, conquered nations with his charm, and conquered time with his determination to never surrender. Julio Iglesias didn't just become a global superstar. He became something far more extraordinary and far more dangerous.